In this video we're going to do some repairs to the footwell, the door pillar and the top of the bulkhead. I'm not looking forward to it, I don't really want to do it, but it's a job, I've got to do it. But we're working to a budget, remember, on this job. This is Charles's job. I'm going to show you, I'm going to take the camera off the stand in a minute and go and have a look at what we're up to. But this is what a lot of people have asked me, you know, about taking wings off and taking panels off. So I'm going to do this with you so you can see the processes we've got to do. So let's go first and have a look at the actual extent of the corrosion. Whenever you buy a Land Rover, don't ever be afraid of lifting up the carpets and having a look at these parts here, the footwells. Look at this, what a damn mess. It's really bad. See if I can get the camera around then. You can see the extent of the corrosion right the way down to here. All this has to come out. And also by getting that out, we've got to take the door off because we've got to change the pillar. So let's get started. Let's take the door off first. Like I say, I'm not very enthused about doing this job. And then we've got to do the other side as well, but this is the worst. Let's get on with it. When taking off the door hinges, we need a good quality screwdriver, and I think they're called a number 4. I'm not sure in Europe what they are, but you can see the head on it is very large, grips the screw very, very well, but also, most importantly, it's got a couple of flats on here. Well, I'm just using an adjustable because I'm going to tell you something in a minute, to get some extra leverage on those nuts. The thing I'm going to tell you is I expect these to be dog rotten. I'm thinking I'm going to have to drill them all out, and the reason is for this. This is the captive nut that we use for fastening on the doors. Now it's okay when they're new, but when they're rusted up, you can see here these little tangs are the only thing that stops it turning. So if this is rusty, you ain't got a hope in hell's chance of getting this undone, because it's going to turn in, you know, it's going to turn in this housing. So let's have a go and see what happens. We'll do it live anyway. Now, so you need to, I'm a bit pushed for space, but we'll have a go and see what happens. The top ones do usually come out, it's the bottom ones that's a bugger. So put our spanner on, put some weight on it, and oh, there you go. That one came out. Like I say, we don't usually have a problem with the top ones, but the bottom ones, let's have a go with it. Oh, look at that one. That wasn't even tight, look. Oh, I'll tell you what, it's not tight, it's exactly what I've just been saying. The damn thing's spinning, look. So, let's just for giggles and see if it is spinning or it's just pushed through. Yeah, it looks like it's all spinning. Oh! No, it wasn't even on a, there wasn't even a nut there. Shonky old Land Rovers. Rubbish. Now, this gives us a great opportunity to look at this nut and see how snug fitting that is on there, you see. Because if you use a sort of a size under, they'll round off. Let me go and get one, I'll show you. Here we are. This is the largest size normally we see in the shops here in Canada and North America, and you can see the difference between the two, completely different. And let's look, you see, look at the fit. That's going to round off, that's going to slip. That is going to hold on. So let me see what the bottom ones are like. Let's go down here. This is going to be fun. I ain't got much space to work. Make sure that's nice and tight. Oh, look at that, that's come out. Well, well, well. Well, that's alright. Oh, there she goes. Can you hear that? That's the nut turning. That's going to have to be drilled out. Let's have a go at the bottom one. That's turning. And that's coming out, look. That's alright. So we've really only got one to drill out. Oh, that's getting tight now. I'm going to squirt some penetrating oil down here and hopefully we'll screw it back in and that'll go, but the top one's, it's all turning, so I'll get that drilled out and then we'll get the door off. This is the bolt that we took out of the bottom hinge, but remember we had to drill one out. But you can see, even though I put penetrating oil on it, it doesn't actually get to where it needs to be. But fortunately it came out. To get the other one out, don't sort of go with a great big drill and try and drill it out all at once. That's not the way. Start with a smaller drill and then work progressively upwards, if you see what I mean. 3 drills, 4 drills. And the reason for that is because it's all spinning, you want to reduce the friction as much as possible. And then, when you get to the last drill, you'll drill right through the centre of the bolt like that, and it'll come out easy. And you don't have to drill it out too deep, look, but sometimes that's the easiest way. People try to warm them up and get them off. Forget warming them up, you'll never get them out. And penetrating oil, as we see, well, I must admit I struck lucky on this one. Wait a minute. Yeah, I struck lucky on that one, trying to get that out. So now I'm going to take the door off, get that out of the way, and then what we're going to do is start to take off the grill and the panel here so we can gain access to the bolts underneath. We're going to have to flip the bonnet up, get that out of the way, and then we can start to take off all this stuff on that's strapped to the wing. I'll change the camera around, but I'll get this off and get this off. That's really sort of trivial. Nothing much to know there, but we'll come back. A couple of tips to get this front panel off. This bolt here at the bottom is particularly tricky to get in at, but if you take out the little captive nut that goes in here, like that, look, if you take that out, it's going to make life a lot easier. So what you do is you take that one out completely, and this one at the bottom, and then the top ones are actually on slots in here. So all you have to do is back them off a few turns and then that panel will come out. And then you've got even better access to get to these bolts that's under here. And then you can sort of unscrew them quite easy. This one's not too bad to get out, look. Wait a minute. There you see, you've got the bolt out. It's sometimes a good idea when you're putting all these back together again, is just to run a tap down the holes, especially in the top ones, because the bottom one is a captive nut that's replaceable, but the top ones are sort of welded in nuts in a big steel plate at the top, and if they get corroded, well, you could have trouble. Yeah, I've seen people actually put a saw down here and cut those off when they couldn't get them off. So next thing, the reason why we took that off was, I'll show you on this side, there's a bolt just under here, and it's so much easier to take the front off to get access. I've proceeded to take off the fuel filter, the expansion tank, and the little bracket that supports the wing. I've also taken off the air cleaner intake from the wing, so now I can get access to the bolts down the side. I've also started to take off the bottom bolt from here, but there is a sneaky one just, wait a minute, let's see, there's a sneaky one inside, and that's the reason why we take the front off. Now what we're going to do next, I'll move the camera around and I'll show you. I've got to take the plastic arch off, which means jacking up and supporting the vehicle and taking the pins out. But I've also got to undo, if I'm going to undo just the wing panel, I need to undo the bolts on the sill here. But because I'm replacing this panel here, I've got to take off that sill altogether. Now that's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of 10mm headed bolts under there, which will be probably rusted solid. However, what might be in our favour, it's all been sandblasted and painted, so it might have knocked the rust off. Let me jack the car up, let's get it safe, and I'll start to take that sill off. And then, once that's off, there's a bolt, let's see if you can see. There's a bolt holding the top of the wing on here, and then 4 bolts down the side. I'll cover that when we get to it. So I managed to get the sill off. Of course, naturally only 1 bolt snapped off. All the rest of them were tight all the way. You can see, look at all that corrosion in there. Isn't that a lot of fun? So, there's a sneaky little bolt on the side here that goes on a plate like that. That tang's usually rusted off, but in this case it was all there. Next thing, we've got the plastic arch off. That's easy job, just push the pins out. That'll come out. Next thing, I don't know if you can see down here, my light's not so good, but we have to get to these bolts here. Ah, that's better, that's better. How's that? Look at that. Those are Whitworth bolts, alright? Those 4 bolts, Whitworth. They are not 9/16. So we're going to get a Whitworth spanner, take that off. Then I'm going to do I'll chat and tell you which ones they are, they are. Then we've got to, while these are off, we can take this wiring off, because to get to that clip, you know, take that off, get that out the way, all the way along, get the wiring out, and then we're going to go and take off the bolts that go under here. There's 4 bolts under here. I'll get the flashlight out when I get the sockets out, and I'll show you. And then it's just about ready to come off, quite easy. I'm taking the wing off separate to the inner wing, because I find that's an easiest way than struggling on right down in that bottom corner. All will come apparent very shortly. I removed the bolts holding the inner arch to the wing. There's 4 bolts. There's 1, 2, I've dropped one on the floor, so I'm going to put it here. 3, 4. Take those out. They are actually 3/16 Whitworth, fit like a glove. And the 4 bolts that go down the side here are 1/4 Whitworth. Get those 2 sockets, very useful for your Land Rover. So that's all off. What I'm going to do now, just last little thing. Wait a minute, down here. This bolt here was really, really tight, so I had to resort to the grinder with the slitting disc in and just snip that off. There's also these 2 bolts to come off here, these 2 screws. They'll allow the front wing to come off. And that's it. So I'm going to put the camera on the stand and put tools and things to one side, and we'll show you how easy it is to get this wing off. There's no real need to take the headlight out, especially on the 300 TDI. You just push the wires through for the side lights and the indicators. Just push those through. You can take the light out. It's not really important. But like I say, a lot of people take these wings off with the inner arch. It's alright if you're at a scrapyard or something like that and want to pull one off really quick, but putting it back on is a bit tricky. So, all we're going to do is take it off, and work out that the bonnet cable's still attached. What a rookie mistake. Let me take that off. Take 2. Now with the bonnet cable off, that's how easy it is to get off. No tears. So if we want to take the inner wing off, which we're going to have to do at the other side to replace it because it's all rotten, all we have is 1 bolt down at the bottom, which now we can easily access, and a couple of screws on the side. But what we've got access to now is our inner wing. Let me move the camera. The corrosion in this vehicle is very bad. You can see where it's all starting to go here. Kind of common. Not a bit of rust proofing on it. So we can get things moved out the way, ready for cutting and grinding. In fact, we can just take that thing and throw it up there. And we can get access now to this footwell, and the footwell at the top actually is quite good, and so is this bit, but we need to replace this bit. So with a bit of careful cutting, I'm going to cut this out and get at it. Now I am going to have to take the inner wing off completely because I want to get to weld it underneath here. So I haven't quite finished yet, and it's 12:15. So there is 2.5 hours just to get this wing off, sort of without damaging it. We have to pull the wire out for the lighting. We have to take the top hinge, the check strap off, and then we can take off this hinge up here, because we're going to have to replace this panel in here. I'm going to have a bit of lunch now, and then we'll come back and we'll get the parts ready, and we'll show you what we're going to do to cut all this lot out. But first of all, which I should have done earlier, just make sure that the battery's disconnected, okay? Right, back after lunch. So as you can see now, I've taken off this inner wing, and the last remaining bolts were 2 screws through here and a bolt through there, which we chopped out with a grinder because they were absolutely rusted solid. Now, coming back to here, to gain access to the wing bolts underneath, we've got to take off this tube. Now, because this side is fairly compact with a lot more stuff than the other side, with the heater, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. However, we've come across a problem at the first hurdle. We've got to take the checker plate off because this type of checker plate doesn't allow us access to get to a little particular... Let me see, I'm just going to turn this lens around a minute. That's better. Couldn't see what I was doing. There is a screw under here and I can't get to it, so I either drill it out in a great big hole, because I've got to actually take the screw out, or take the wing top off. Well, no brainer, got to take the wing top off. Once we've taken the wing top off, we can take the washer bottle off, we can take the power steering reservoir off. What else? Oh, we've got to take the wheel arch off. That's about it. Sills and stuff like this, all got to come off. What a great job. When you've got lack of interest. Right, so let's get started. Let's drill this off. Take all that gubbins off, and then we'll tell you how to get to the bolts for the top. If you ever see a Land Rover with checker plate on the wing tops, you can guarantee that they'll be like this. They're all bored in when people have been leaning on them, when they've been working and things like that. They're very weak. Land Rover wings are on Defenders are particularly thin. In fact, I just don't know how they managed to get away with making them so thin. But anyway, the thing I'm going to tell you about now is that the 2 screws I was talking about, these ones here, they're very small. See? Those ones hold this like trumpet in. There, 2 of them. Now, little tip, which I always do, wherever you're working on your Land Rover, put all your screws in a plastic bag or something. Every bit of fitting, put them in a bag, because they're so easy to lose. And try and find some of these on a Saturday afternoon. You know, you're stuck. Bag it, tag it. You could do it for 1 bag for each side, but it really is a good idea. And even I still do it. So the next thing, we've got to strip off all these gubbins off the side of here. If you want to remove the washer bottle from the wing, if you've got this type of square one, especially for a station wagon because it's got 2 pumps in, the first thing you've got to do is undo the 2 screws that go in the side. These 2 here. You've got to then take the bottle off, because right down at the bottom here, to take this bracket off, there's another bolt underneath it, and you can't quite access it and take everything off. Yes, you could do it, but you'll struggle on. So take the washer bottle off, put it to one side, then we can take this bracket off, and then I'll show you how to get this trumpet out, this whatever it is, I don't know. With the bracket out the way, all you've got to do is just take the bottom bolt out and then tip it, and it'll come out like that. Always remember, get into the habit of putting the screws that you've taken out back into the holes again wherever possible, because it will save you a lot of time looking around for bolts. Now, to get this air intake out, you simply slide it forwards and sort of lift the wing up a bit and try and get it out from underneath like this. It is tricky, but it will go. There we go, easy, wasn't it? Now the next thing, just spin the heater, that's working fine. Look at this, what we find here. Bare wires going absolutely nowhere. How original is that? So, next job, on the stands, wheel off, arch off. Getting the inner arches off is quite easy, and I should have told you this earlier. What you need is a tool like this. Where are you now? You might not be able to see it very clearly, I'll show you it later, but it's just a little punch that I made out of an old screwdriver. And you find the centre of the bolt, the rivet, you tap it through, put your hand around here, and you should, not in my case, I wonder where that's gone. You should find the little tang that comes out. Let's try another one. It's not the end of the world if you lose it. There she goes. That worked that time. There it is. And then you can pull that out. And what you've got to do is do that for all of them, then the plastic arch comes off. And like I say, when we replace these, I'll show you a different technique to use. The worst bolt to get out of the wing, apart from being able to cut them out, is this top one just behind the heater. Now this is a right hand drive heater, so this will apply to an awful lot of viewers. You can get it out if you use 2 extension bars and a half decent swivel joint. Now this is mine off my Mpgun, but it works really, really well because it seems to keep in a constant plane while you're taking the bolt out. And if you go in from under the wheel arch, if you take the plastic arch off, the rest's a dream. So all I've got to do now is to take a couple of screws out the front and the bolts out of here, the remaining 3 bolts, and life should be a dream. Shaboom, shaboom. Let's see how we come on. So we're about to take this wing off, quite easy. The only remaining job is to take the wiring off the headlamp. I could take the headlamp out if I wish, but let's go through it. We have 2 bolts in the top here that has got to come out. We've got 2 bolts underneath at the bottom. Let me change the camera angle so you could see. There's a short one at the very front and then there's a long one further inside. Now I suggest that if it's a bit tricky, instead of struggling, take the long one out with a grinder, just cut them off and don't bother. We've taken off the washer bottle. We've taken off the reservoir for the power steering. We've taken the 4 bolts off down the wing, 1 onto the sill. This time we're not taking the sill off because we're not replacing the whole door pillar. And where else? Oh, there's 2 screws that go under the wheel arch at the front. You've got to take those out. Those are out. The only thing now I've got to disconnect is the headlamp. I think that's it. Oh, wait a minute, what's this here? I've got the horn to pull off. Get that off and out of the way. That goes through a little grommet. There we go, pull that out. Bit fiddly sometimes. They always seem to make the holes just about small enough. They're not really all that big. Right, that's that out. And a bit of luck. We've got a cable tie. We've got a cable tie. Got to look around for some snippers. And here they are. Just a second. that. Oh, wait a minute, we've got a bit of a wiring situation. It actually goes nowhere, but it's tapped into some light, so we're going to get rid of that. And that's it, that's the wing off out the way. Right, the next thing, the reason why we're taking this side off is not only to get to the access for the footwell, but this wheel arch was peppered all the way through, so we're going to take that off next, and that involves taking, on the 300 TDI, we've got to take the turbo pipe bracket off, 2 screws off the back, and then that should lift off. Take your wiring harness off, swing it out the way, job done. So let's get that those few screws off, and then we'll take this arch off. I just took the wing off, the inner arch, and this piece that was supposed to be holding the inner arch on, well, that just fell off. So it looks like we've got to do some extensive work around here. What I'm doing there, I know it's kind of violent, but I liked it. This is actually double skinned, and this is the reason why they fail. I don't know why they do double skinning. It's the same at the bottom. This rib piece is double skinned onto another piece inside. And the problem is the humidity and the water gets between the skinning. It can't dry out, it can't get anywhere. So it looks like we're going to have to replace that on. Now the reason why we took all that lot off, so we can get to these bolts here for the body mounting, and so we can do a good job on that footwell. Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. So that's that done. That's the wing off. Yeah, I think that about sums it up really for today. I hope you like that. That's going to be a struggle to put that bracket back on, by the way, because what we're going to have to do, because we don't know where it's going to be, is we're going to have to fit the inner arch back on and tack weld that off, take the inner arch off, maybe the wing completely so we can get the positioning right, and well, then take it back off again to do a good weld round it. This is not a 5-minute job. Alright, so my next job, which I'm not going to do a video on, is taking the seat base out, and but I might do a video on how to replace the end covers, because the ends of the seat box are rotten. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, I think I'll do that. But today, well, let's wrap this up because it's getting a bit long. But we've got the wings off. Got to put the wheels back on, get this mobile, because at 5 o'clock I've got the disco coming in to change some tyres. Another dismal, bloody awful job to do. Talk to you later. Bye.